Hello children, welcome to the biology class. Today we are going to discuss about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Common parts of a flower are anther, filament, petal, sepal, stigma, style and ovary. The reproductive parts of angiosperms are located in the flower. Stamens and pistil are the reproductive parts of a flower which contain the germ cells. Pistil is present in the center of a flower and is the female reproductive part. It is made of three parts. The swollen bottom part is the ovary, middle elongated part is the style, and the terminal part, which may be sticky, is the stigma. The ovary contains ovules and each ovule has an egg cell. Stamen is the male reproductive part and it produces pollen grains that are yellowish in color. Anther and filament is the two parts of stamen. Anther contain pollen grains. The flower may be unisexual when it contains either stamens or pistil. Examples for unisexual flowers are papaya, watermelon, coconut flowers, etc. If the both gynoecium or pistil and the androecium or stamen are present in a flower, it is called bisexual flower. Examples for bisexual flowers are blue lily, shoe flower, sesbania, casalpinia, hibiscus and mustard. Petals are the colorful parts of a flower used to attract insects and birds. Sepal protects the bud of a young flower. What is pollination? The transfer of pollen from the male anther to the female stigma is called pollination. Pollination may occur in two ways. They are cross-pollination and self-pollination. Cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of the same kind. Self-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same plant. How pollination happens? The bee or any other insect goes to a flower in search of nectar to eat. While the bee is there, the bee rubs against the anther and some pollen gets on his bee fur. The bee goes to another flower for some more nectar. While on that flower, some of pollen sticks to the sticky stigma. The pollen travels down the style into the ovary. The pollen fertilizes the eggs in the ovary to form seeds. Fertilization is the fusion of the male and female gametes to produce a zygote. Male and female gametes are haploid and zygote will be diploid. The pollen grain produces the male gametes. Embryo sac produces an egg cell and polar nuclei. Double fertilization. Pollination occurs transfer of pollen from anther to stigma. Pollen tube forms in the stigma and produces two sperm. The sperm enters into the ovule through the micropyle. One sperm nucleus unites with the egg nucleus to become the zygote. The other sperm nucleus unites with the two polar nuclei to form a triploid endosperm nucleus. It provides food for the developing embryo. In many plants, the endosperm disappears and the cotyledon becomes the food source. After fertilization, the zygote divides several times to form an embryo within the ovule. The ovule develops a tough coat and is gradually converted into a seed. The ovary grows rapidly and ripens to form a fruit. Meanwhile, the petals, sepals, stamen, style, and stigma may shrivel and fall off. The seed contains the future plant or embryo which develops into a seedling under appropriate conditions. This process is known as germination. Parts of a seed are plumule, radicle, testa or seed coat, and cotyledon. Plumule becomes the first shoot of the plant. Radicle becomes the first root of the plant. Testa or seed coat protects the seed from the injury and drying out. Cotyledon contains the stored food for initial growth. So children, that's all about plant reproduction. Learn well. Thank you.